You know that feeling, that incredibly powerful, all-consuming thing that can take over your life, focused entirely on one person? But you just can't find the right word for it? So many of us have been there, but almost no one can actually name it. Well, today, we're going to give it a name.
It's an internal high, fueled by wishful thinking. And that is the pain. Wow. That quote just gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? It perfectly captures that intense, almost drug-like high, but also the deep, aching pain that comes with it. That's the paradox we're diving into.
So really, what is this feeling? It's clearly more than a crush, and it's definitely not that calm, mutual feeling of love. It's something else, something more obsessive, more isolating. That's the big question we're here to unpack.
All right, first things first. Before we even try to slap a label on this thing, let's just explore the raw experience. Let's get a feel for the landscape of this emotion that, for so many, has no name.
See, at its core, this whole thing is a one-sided story. It lives and breathes entirely inside your head. You're the one writing the script, directing the scenes, playing the soundtrack. You create this perfect connection, you feed it with daydreams, and honestly, sometimes that feels even more real than reality itself.
So what does it actually feel like? Well, it's this weird mix of heavy and intoxicating. It's often this huge secret you keep locked up, maybe out of shame because it feels kind of abnormal, right? To care so much about someone who might not even know you're alive. It pulls you inward, makes you quiet. And this is the big one. You project everything you need, validation, meaning, excitement, onto this fantasy version of a person. Okay, so your brain is probably scrambling for a category. We do this naturally. We think, is this love? Is it just a really, really big crush? Or maybe infatuation? Let's take a minute and see why none of those labels really seem to fit. I mean, we've got a whole dictionary for attraction and connection, but do any of our usual words really capture this specific, painful, all-consuming state? Let's find out. Let's just break it down. A crush, that's light, it's playful, it's kind of a shimmering joy. Infatuation, that's that thrilling, euphoric rush that's actually based on real interaction, that sweet tingle of getting to know someone new. And love, well, love is deep and calm. It's a mutual pact built on trust. None of these describe that heavy, one-sided ache we're talking about.
So, if it's not a crush, not infatuation, and definitely not love, then what in the world is it? It is time to finally give this powerful feeling the name it deserves. The name is limerence. And for so many people who have felt this, just hearing that word for the first time is this huge aha moment. It's this incredible relief. Finally, a word for this nameless, intoxicating pain. So what does limerence actually mean? Think of it as an intense state of longing. The key ingredients here are idealization and projection. You see the person as basically perfect, and you project all of your own unmet needs onto them. The whole thing grows out of a deep sense of lack, and it's based on fantasy, not what's real. So how do you know if you're in it? Well, there are some pretty clear telltale signs. Obsessive thoughts you just can't shake. Intense emotional highs and lows that totally depend on them. You might even create little rituals to feel closer, like checking their photos constantly or listening to certain songs. You start to believe your happiness completely depends on them. And then, when that fantasy fades, even for a moment, this deep, painful emptiness rushes in. And here is the great, tragic paradox of limerence. Inside your mind, it feels like the greatest, most epic love story ever told. But in reality, it's a cage. It's a trap of emotional dependency on an illusion that you've built all by yourself. So where did this term even pop up from? To really get what it means to us today, we've got to go back to its clinical, kind of sterile origins in the 1970s. Okay, so picture this. It's the 1970s, and a psychologist named Dorothy Tennov coins this term to describe what she saw as an involuntary, obsessive state. Now, the problem with her original definition is that the language is so cold and clinical. It basically frames limerence as a pathological exception, like it's a disorder, something wrong with you that needs to be fixed to be normal. You can really hear that clinical view in her own words. She called it a state of intense, compulsive infatuation, somewhere between a high and an obsession. Listen to that language, compulsive, obsession. It sounds less like a deeply human experience and more like a medical diagnosis, doesn't it? But think about this for a second. That clinical view, it only describes the symptom, the obsessive thoughts, the longing.
It totally ignores the function. It never bothers to ask the most important question of all. Why? Why is this happening to you in the first place? And that brings us to our final and honestly most important section. This is where we flip the script on this whole idea. Limerence isn't a disorder to be ashamed of. It's an unconscious wake-up call. This is the pivot. The old way of thinking saw limerence as a pathological state, a problem to be overcome. But this new, more empowering view sees it as a meaningful signal. It's a wake-up call from a part of yourself that's been lost or ignored for way too long. And this, right here, is the most critical takeaway from all of this. Limerence isn't really about the other person. They're just the screen you're projecting onto. No. Limerence is a giant, flashing neon sign pointing directly at what's missing in you and in your own life. This personal story from our source material just nails it. The woman who traveled the world alone became quiet. Maybe that's why I felt this longing so intensely. It gives me back what I miss. You see, her limerence wasn't really about the guy. It was her own adventurous spirit, her own lost self, calling out to be remembered and brought back to life. So we want to leave you with this thought. Instead of desperately asking, how do I make this feeling go away? Try asking a totally different question. What is your limerence trying to tell you about yourself? What lost part of you is it begging you to find again?
Now, if this really hit home for you and you want to learn more, you can check out the book Loving an Illusion by Anne Skye. And if you're looking for support and connection, there's a community called Limerence Pathfinders over on the school platform. It's a great space to share what you're going through and understand these really powerful feelings with other people who totally get it.